You're listening to For the Republic, a love letter to Star Wars animation.
Hello there.
All right, everyone, welcome to another installment of our Andor recaps here on For the Republic, a love letter to Star Wars animation. We're a bit late, but we are here to talk about episode 6 of Andor, titled The Eye, the culmination of this Aldhani arc that we've been going through the last couple weeks. I am Andrew, joined by Don and Connor today, if you're watching on video, if you're just listening. We appreciate you joining us regardless. We do apologize for being a couple days late. It has been a interesting week for all of us schedule-wise. We didn't think we'd have Conor here, but because we took so long, he has joined us once more. But we'll be back later this week, of course, for our episode 7 recap when that comes out in a couple days. So, gentlemen, I have here that I am emotionally damaged because there's no other way to put it. This episode kind of put me through the ringer a little bit.
The tension alone is just like,
just definitely. Like, even like the build towards all the action we got was killing me. And then they really pulled no punches when the action did start. Like, it was just bang, 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 stuff happening a mile a minute. You don't even have time to register a lot of the huge moments because they just happen like that. And of course, Tony Gilroy was just very cruel with one of the moments because we thought that we were getting out scot-free. We thought that someone was gonna make it, and then the episode happened. So
I mean, I saw it coming. Because I wasn't here for episode 5. That moment in particular, I didn't see it happening that way, but I absolutely pegged that character for death. I mean, it makes sense. You know, he was everyone's secret crush, right?
Yeah. You're still so wrong for that. And oh man. But yeah, if you have not watched our recap from last week, we had Austin and Chelsea of the Wayseekers on for that episode. That was a really fun one. But now we're here to talk about The Eye. So we start off with this episode with a really, I thought, very good conversation and very interesting of what we would see later on in the episode between Nemik and Cassian, where Nemik pretty much like calls Cassian out on a bunch of his stuff, but like says like, oh, I've come to realize that people like you, mercenaries like you, are like important for the rebellion. At one point he even like says like, oh, Clem, like if that's even your real name. Which I'm kind of surprised that Cassian like didn't disclose his true identity to Nemik, because like he seemed to be the one like true friend that Cassian had in this group, while everyone else was just like super tense towards him. And we just lost Conor, so we'll see. No. We'll see where that goes. It's like last week we lost me for a bit. Now we've lost Conor for a little bit. But yeah, what did you think of this conversation and just like what it was leading towards, and your thoughts on Nemik as a character?
Because I wasn't there for like last recording. I really liked Nemik because Nemik felt very original. Again, like with a lot of these characters, you know, it's really interesting to see this kind of like slightly neurotic individual within the Rebels who's very like, you know, I certainly aspire to be able to like write when I can't sleep. That line made me very
that was great.
I was like, man, what a great ability to be able to just like write so much. But like, I love the conversation with him and Cassian. It's very it's a really nice exchange of ideas, because like, you know, he's very much like grappling with like the evolving nature of this conflict with the Empire, and it's very much like a continuation of what he said last episode, where he was talking about like how there's like so much going wrong all at once. It's almost hard to like react to it all and deal with it all, which is very timely, given like the current state of the world.
Definitely.
And, like that's just from the view of like social media as well. But yeah, like, really cool conversation, and I love the quiet anger that Cassian has. Like that line where he says, "Do I look thankful to you?" I was like, the way Diego Luna delivers that with like the steel in his eyes.
That was great.
It carries further in because it's like there's the theme in the episode there of like really seeing what like loss and hardship does to people. Like you see it later on with Cinta, and the lack there is with another character we'll talk about later. But yeah, overall great conversation.
Yeah, no, it was a great way to. I know. I am still very upset over that. But it was a great way to start the episode. Great way to like have this like moment of levity before all the tension and all the action starts off between Nemec and Cassian, which I think we really needed in this episode, because from this point onwards, it's just like tense throughout. And continuing on the tradition of Andor establishing these just like complete like crap garbage human being Imperial characters, we get introduced to another one this episode. What a guy, Gorn
Commandant
Superior
J-Hold.
Oh god, you just caught us at the best. We were just talking about new crap Imperial character in this episode.
Oh yeah,
how he can't fit in his uniform anymore.
Yeah,
what a guy.
That scene, I love that scene as well, because I was just rewatching it like before we started recording, and like I love how when J-Hold and Pettigar are talking about like the Aldhanis and how they've like set this path up, like they've set all those relief checkpoints up to like whittle the group down, to sort of slowly erode their hope, their desire to like cling to their beliefs. And all the while you've got Lieutenant Gorn standing there in the background watching the two of them, and you see his eyes just like, you see the contempt building in his eyes towards the two of them, and like you understand this is why Gorn has defected. This is why Gorn is part of the rebellion, because he sees the sort of casual cruelty that they display.
Yeah.
And like the fact that they're so, the lack of like even pretending that it's anything other than cruelty, like, and like the way like it harkens back to what Cassian said in both the trailer and episode 3. You know, they're so proud of themselves, they don't care, they're so fat and satisfied. And you see that here literally with like two Imperial officers like chugging down on drinks, just like marveling at like how cruel they are to the Aldhanis. It's very well done.
Oh, definitely. Also, I like how we've spent the last 2 episodes like trying to figure out who is the engineer going to be. Is it going to be Krennic? Is it going to be Galen Erso? And then it's just some random guy. It's just some random. I don't even think they named him. He's just like, but I agree with everything you said there, and I like how this episode really put on display the grossness of colonialism throughout the Empire.
Yes,
and
yeah,
it's just great.
Well, I was gonna say like about the Aldhanis as well. That the Aldhani, the way they're presented, there's a lot of like visual coding, and like the way they celebrate stuff that's like it's a fusion of like native but also pagan kind of vibes that we get from it. Yeah, it's just really cool, and I'm so glad that they showed the Aldhanis as well, because like we actually get to see the culture of that planet, and we get to, because it's like it's all very good being told what the Empire did here, but like actually showing the people there and showing what this festival means to them.
And how like, the Empire is really like for lack of a better term, oppressed them.
Yeah,
I feel like that's just a very easy catch-all word. I feel like there's a more appropriate word, but also like
stripped away, like slowly stripped away the
identity.
Yeah, exactly. And like so, there's a lovely moment when they're watching the Eye later in the episode, and this one Aldhani woman, just like a tear silently falls from her eye. And
that one.
Exactly.
That's the eye they're watching.
Exactly.
It's the Eye of Aldhani.
Yeah.
The Knights.
Go check out For the Republic's tweet.
The Twitter.
On... When was it sent? Like,
I want to say it was Friday.
Okay. Just go through
Friday or Saturday.
Through their media. Just go through their media tweets and you'll see it.
I was bored at 4 a.m. I know I was mid my Rogue One rewatch because I rewatched it the other day because I have some interesting thoughts, but then I watched it again and I was like, what was I on for 6 years? Because this is a treat.
Lots of love for Rogue One. I have a Rogue One t-shirt as well.
Not an emotional treat. Emotionally, it's kind of t-shirt. Terrible and hurts me inside. But
Tony Gilroy does that to us.
But I just loved when we get later in the episode of when they kept cutting when the actual heist was going down and they kept cutting between the heist itself and then back to the Aldhani ceremony. And they kept doing that repeatedly. And then when the eye finally starts and the chanting and all of the rituals finally end is when the shit starts hitting the fan. And things really tensed up. I really liked the editing there and how they did it. And just when we get later on to that scene of the commandant and then when they're doing the exchanging of the furs and you can tell the Imperials they don't even know the significance. They don't even care. Yeah. They're just let's just get this over with. I got to look good in front of my superiors and we'll do this. Throw it in the fire.
Get off this mud hole. I think he says something like that to his wife, Roboda. That's a good scene as well because that's normally a scene that would probably end up on the cutting room floor in say a movie, but it's really cool because it gives him that slight bit of normality. You're not just seeing him as as a commandant anymore, an Imperial officer. You're also seeing him as a rather shitty family man. And you're seeing how his family are sort of dragged here and sort of quietly suffering, I guess, because his wife isn't satisfied being there. His son is
his son. Yeah, it's I'm sick. You're always sick. You're sick all the time. Of you.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, it's sick of you. I don't want to do this ritual shit that you don't even want to take part in, Dad. Why?
You gotta wear your Imperial robes. He's I'm sick. And
I don't want to wear them.
I felt that kid's energy.
Yeah, it was kind of like Lita in am I forgetting her name? Mon Mothma's daughter.
Yeah, exactly. Lita, I won't spend too much time talking about it because that's the last episode. Lita, I'm fascinated to see where she'll go because she could either go the way of supporting her mum or actually being an Imperial sympathizer like her dad. And it's even more interesting when you consider how Mon Mothma later interacts with Leia and it's kind of a friendship, but there's also kind of a surrogate mother-daughter vibe between the two of them. I wonder if I'd love a comic just with Lita and Leia, just maybe they meet up during the war or something, after this show is released and we actually get to see what happens with Mon and her family here.
I would be down for that. Definitely. I want to see the two interact and then maybe see Leia kind of push her towards more of the cause later on.
Yeah.
But I'm genuinely curious of where that character is going to go because Mon Mothma's family right now is just complete and utter dog crap. And then she's just trapped and we'll see later. She has one scene in this episode, but it was a very good one. And it really put a lot of emphasis on what the Imperial Senate is at this point in the galaxy, which
we got a Senate scene.
I'm
not gonna lie, did not expect that.
No, barely anyone there, no one really listening. I was kind of surprised, and
it's properly
she's
subversive.
Preaching to no one there, and to me it kind of represented how none of this actually matters because Palpatine is just going to do whatever the hell he wants. They have no real power. They're just there because they can't abolish it yet because the Death Star's not ready.
He's slowly eroding the not just the usefulness of the Senate, but also a lot of the senators. He's because of the society he's kind of perpetuating. They don't care. They don't care about these issues, and we saw it with Obi-Wan, Bail's frustrations with his relatives or his contemporaries, his colleagues who don't care about slavery. They just want to go to parties and get pissed and not worry about the wider world. And
they're parents. They just want to have fun and they just want to live that high class lifestyle.
Yeah, I'm seeing you at the boring end. These people are fun. But like,
what a guy!
Yeah, exactly. But like, you feel Mon Mothma's frustration there, and it's a great bit of subversion because it would have been so easy to like. I mean, we could still get like a scene that's like got some debate over like maybe the incident on Aldhani. Like maybe we start to see more spirit in the Senate because they're fighting more to preserve the status quo than they are to change it. Like I could see a theme like that cropping up in the show, but like, yeah. It's such a good scene. It's so subversive, and it's just really cool. And you also feel for Mon in that scene.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, like Mon and Luthen only had one scene in this episode, but each of them I thought worked. And we'll save Luthen's for the end because I thought it was the perfect way to cap off this episode. But we get like we said with the Imperial scenes, we get a good look into like why more and more of why Gorn has decided to help the rebellion out. And I really liked his character a lot, and which is why I thought he was going to make it out because he would represent the Aldhani people. I was wrong. I was very wrong, but we'll get to that when we get there. Let's talk about the build towards the actual heist, like when it starts happening. Like
it was really tense. It was
so tense. Like when we see them finally get in the uniforms and like blend in with the troops. People are one quick tangent here real quick, which is typical of us, but like I keep seeing people be like, oh, why is it just like random Imperial like soldiers? Why is it not stormtroopers? It's like, why are we not seeing this? It's like, be patient. They're showing the different faces that the Empire can have.
Yes.
And I think it's more if we get to see their faces as opposed to like if this heist was just them taking out a bunch of stormtroopers, it wouldn't have the emotional impact that it does here because we don't get to see their faces. But then we got introduced to the characters first. So then when it takes hostage on them to like, oh, there was a bit of levity here. It's like, do I feel, I don't know, maybe feel a bit on edge, maybe feel a bit uncomfortable. But then you realize like, wait, no, hold on. These are a bunch of like colonizing bastards. They don't deserve our sympathy at all.
Yeah.
And I just really like what Gilroy's doing here. And I am perfectly fine to wait more for stormtroopers because we know they're showing up. Like, of course they're not gonna. Or
we technically got some stormtroopers at least with the TIE pilots. Yeah, which is really cool.
Yeah.
Like those guys showed up again to mark the escalation of the conflict because we only get them right at the end when the whole thing has progressed. But I totally agree with what you've just said. It's vital that we only see these ground troops, that we see these soldiers, these like lower ranking soldiers who still have faces, who still have like humanity, like where they haven't given themselves over to the Empire like completely. So you'll have like that whole scene where like later on those guards are like running down to the vault and like one of them's protesting, but we'll miss the eye. Like they actually want to see it. They actually want to partake in the culture. They have different like interests.
Yeah, they
and, also on another note, I think that's the first time outside of like the. Oh no! See, I was gonna fall into a trap there. This is the first time we've seen a person pee in Star Wars in live action because Wedge already did that in Rebels.
Oh yeah, then the what was the creature that pissed on? B2
yeah, like the dog thing. I can't remember.
Yeah,
the
dog hounds, Corellian hounds, or whatever.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah,
Tony Gilroy, when he got hired to write the show, he's like, "All right, so I'll do it. I just have to have a certain amount of characters piss on screen in order for me to take this job."
It could have been worse. He could have like asked specifically for a scene where like Mon Mothma like turns around like a thing and it's just a jar of like her husband's piss. Like
I don't want to think about that at all.
And he's just put like Granny's peach tea on it. Like it could have been so much worse.
No.
No. We're gonna move on from that.
We're gonna move on from that. Like no Batman v Superman crap here.
Yeah, we're just gonna.
What I did like though was the continued like TIE fighter renaissance that we're having in this show. Just the scenes of them like getting in the TIEs and the build up to it. They were shot great. I really loved it. The TIE pilots actually looked like fairly menacing for once. And just the way they're shooting this. And then that space battle with flying like through the eye was just just some gorgeous visuals when we get to that. But
so cool.
But yeah, when they like going back to my original thing, like when they like fused into like the troops and like just the tension there of like you could just see it in their faces. Like every time they'll like cut to like a close-up shot of like Cassian's face or everyone else's, while we have like Vel and Cinta doing their thing in the background. And at points, because like when they're like communicating through the comms, and like Vel takes a while to respond, I'm like, is she having second thoughts here? Like, does she not want to go through with it? Which that really took me by surprise, because she's been portrayed as like the big leader. Like this is happening at all costs, and we see that little bit of hesitation there. And I just love how this episode like really portrayed her and Cinta. They have a lot of great scenes together. Like not much
Cinta's my
dialogue.
favorite.
I love her. I love her so much.
She's
Not
my
much
absolute
dialogue.
favorite of the Aldhani rebels for sure. I love like the quiet determination in her eyes, and like just like she doesn't say much initially, but she's like she's steadfast, and we know the reason why, because of like that reveal that stormtroopers slaughtered her family.
I forgot about that. Yeah, we got to talk about that.
It's such a casually dark reveal that's like dropped on us, but it makes so much sense when you actually like see her and you see how like determined she is to like strike a blow against the Empire, a meaningful blow. Yeah, she's really cool.
And because it was revealed, because like Terriman was like barking, giving orders, really getting into the role, and Skeen was like, "Oh, it makes sense." And like Cassian was like, "What are you talking about?" So you didn't hear, and it's like we find out that he was a stormtrooper and defected. Which one, I love the fact that we have more defected, redeemed stormtroopers. I'm always for that. I kind of hate that he died, but I called it last week that him being promoted at the end of the episode was like that was his death sentence right there. Like as soon as Vel said that, I'm like, he's dying. But at least he wasn't the first one to die of the group, like I was predicting. That was the guy I thought was going to live, but we will again get to that when we get there. But quick as well. Everything about the lead to this was just such like spy thriller in like the best way. I got like even like when Vel and Cinta like did the whole like zipline thing, I was like, Mission Impossible ? Like I was getting like I
got GoldenEye vibes from that like
too.
The opening of GoldenEye when Pierce Brosnan like jumps down the dam, but like totally like definite spy thriller vibes with like the rappelling and like the tension coming from like, you know, because it'd be very easy to have things go wrong right away, but like that I like that they just keep going and things keep going for them, and you're like
things were actually like there wasn't much opposition, like they were just going, and it still felt super tense. And then when all the stuff started happening, you're like, oh boy. Like,
because it's usually like the Star Wars way that like things go wrong very quickly, and you have to like the characters are like very quickly improvising and stuff, like, you know, obviously the Death Star and that whole business with like Han and Luke having to just literally run around sometimes like screaming at stormtroopers, whereas like this is very quiet, and like the tension's instead coming from you going, oh god, when's something gonna go wrong? I can tell something's gonna go wrong.
So used
that
to
kind
it.
of exactly
So used to it at this point. I hate
it. Literally, it's using our expectations against us in a really well, it's not frustrating, but it's like it's that kind of thing where you like it, but you also hate it at the same time because of the tension.
Yeah, so much tension, guys. Like, come on now. I also really loved the shot of the underwater shot they had when Vel and Cinta were like swimming to like get into the base that way, because they framed it. And I was like, what? That's a different looking ship. And then I realized, wait, no, it's them swimming.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this is such a cool shot. I just love what they're doing with the visuals in this show. It's really, really working for me.
For sure.
I just, again, like the lead towards it and everything. Like at one point, because I think they like when they first like get to where the commandant is with the Aldhani people when they're just patrolling them, I thought they were gonna get busted right there, because he kind of looks at them. It's like, where are they from again? And I don't remember the name of it. They keep referencing that planet throughout. I don't remember the name of it. that they're
Is it a
using,
Denzi?
Something like that. Yeah,
Kenzie. Al Kenzie.
Al
Kenzie, that's it. Yeah,
it's like because they keep like going back and forth. It's like, oh, we're getting like the comms are off and everywhere except for on Al Kenzie because that's the signal they're using for the mission. And it's like, oh, where are you from? It's like, oh, Al Kenzie. And it's like, yeah, okay. Because I thought at one point they were gonna be like, I don't remember hiring you. Like, where the hell are you from? But he doesn't care. He
exactly.
He
That just it again epitomizes the Empire's arrogance and why it presents these opportunities for the rebels to strike back, because a functional organization would know its employees, it would know its soldiers, it would know if someone is like there who isn't who they say they are. But like here they are, these strangers,
and I just thought now it's like even though we do see their faces and they're not like stormtroopers, they're still faceless to the Empire. They don't care. They just see the uniform and that's it.
They just see assets.
Exactly. But actually getting to the stuff starting to happen when they take his family hostage. And I was like, I was kind of shocked.
Oh, Sam,
at the level of this.
I
was like,
this the hell is this?
Yeah. Especially when they kidnapped the kid, and I was like, okay, they're gonna let the kid go. And they keep him like captured the whole time. I'm like, whoa, this is again.
They're not leaving anything to chance.
No, definitely not. And they like Cassian's big thing in Rogue One was him saying, like, I've done terrible things on behalf of the rebellion. And we keep seeing some of those terrible things. To get this Imperial payroll, which again, like this whole heist was just nail biting the whole time, and just seeing that, and I was expecting, what's his name again? The guy they capture, I don't remember.
J-Hold? It's J-Hold, yeah.
J-Hold, yeah. I was expecting him to like fight back a bit more. But he just like he knows like, okay, if I do anything wrong, like they're gonna put a gun to my head and I'm gonna die. So he like
it's the fact that his family's there as well. He's not especially nice to his family, but he does at least care about them enough that like when the blasters are turned on them, they're like he's like, oh, okay, I'm not risking anything. Whereas Pettigar is like clearly thinking that he's being like a hero here by like pulling a blaster on them, and is just immediately cut down, which was very brutal. And it's especially telling that it's Cinta that pulls the trigger. Yeah,
definitely. There's something there. And then Cinta is the one that's left behind to make sure that nothing happens with his family, and that ends up leading to more heartbreak later. That scene between Vel and Cinta, like their goodbye, killed me, especially because I didn't think it was gonna be a goodbye.
Yeah, I thought so much that like one of them was done for in that.
I thought one of them was dying. Like I said, I thought the only two people that were living were Vel and Gorn, and I was right about one of them. But I'm glad Cinta's alive, but I hate that they had to leave her behind.
They separated them. Yeah,
I can't stand it. I was like, no, go back. You got to go back. You got to go back.
Yeah, because if you separate, that means somebody, the two of you is dying.
Mm-hmm. I'm just hoping episode 7 opens up. Cassian just flies back to Aldhani real quick, grabs her, leaves cold open. That's it. You're fine. Don't worry. But I have another question about her later, which we will get to. But when this starts happening, they're getting all of the money in their little ship thing. I like how we just cut to this like group of Imperials just like playing cards, not really caring. And then they're just forced into this like forced labor, and they're like, they haven't done this like probably ever, like this much like work on the job.
Yeah.
And they're just bringing like wheelbarrows of credits into the ship. And I just like how like as soon as this happens, like as soon as like all the work is done, the guy just keels over and just has a heart attack, which is just like
it's rather real, isn't it? Like rather like uncomfortably realistic, and like because you normally see people just get like cut down with a blaster bolt or like stabbed with a lightsaber. You
like
very rarely
stress.
Yeah.
And the physical labor just killed him right there. Like, he didn't need to get shot or anything. It's just like, nope. Just like a thud to the ground.
There's definitely like an implication there, I think, because they kind of set it up, I suppose, with like the whole idea of him not being able to fit into his outfit because, like, I mean, it's probably not just because like he's overweight, but it's more to do with the fact that, like, he is so comfortable in like his
fat and satisfied.
Yeah, exactly. Line. That he literally cannot process like when the ground is literally pulled out from under him by these rebels. And I like the moral ambiguity that we get to see as well, like with the way it's framed, with the way that like the characters are like because we don't normally see rebels doing this. We don't normally see rebels like having to hold people at gunpoint we care about. We normally are seeing them making desperate stands, not enacting heists for the sake of like funding themselves. It's just it's really interesting.
Like this in Rogue One, we see like the darker side of the rebellion. Yeah, but like again, I like how it's portrayed and how they know they have to do terrible stuff, but it's all for like the greater good of the cause. Yeah, which I like, and like we get to see kind of like the blending of points of like, okay, so at this point we see that like stuff that they're doing here and stuff that Saw Gerrera would do kind of similar, but then eventually it becomes too extreme for Mon Mothma and Bail Organa, and we see that separation, and we're seeing like the more ugly, the more real side that you don't want to see. Like we wouldn't see this in Rebels. Like again, at the same time, canon wise, Zeb and Ezra are hunting for fruit
and doing some dumb shit.
Exactly, and then at the same
stealing
time,
a TIE fighter,
and Hera's trying to keep them alive.
Yeah. And then at the same time, Cassian's holding Imperial officers at gunpoint to steal millions of credits. But the same thing happening, of the same importance. But like the story of Commandant J-Hold, like he thinks this is just another day of like performative action with the Empire. Does this ceremony, looks good in front of his superiors, maybe gets that nice promotion, maybe gets off this crap planet, as he refers to it as, looks down on everyone, and then he's thrust into this rebel hostage crisis, and it ends up costing him his life because of all the stress. He just thought he'd be able to sit there comfortably, like never really have to do anything, just kind of like look like he's in a position of power, and then boom, he's taken out. And I love the Gorn reveal when he shows up. I was getting a little worried. I was like, is Gorn gonna like fuck things up for the rebels? Like, is he gonna like reveal that like he was luring them into a trap this whole time? And then when he's like, oh, hurry up, like get this in there, and he's like, he kind of looks at him where it's like, you're gonna get hung for this, and he's like, I deserve it for having worked for you all these years. I was
such a good line. Wow. It's such a good line.
Hits you right there.
Yeah.
But they get like, as I mentioned, they kind of get like revealed in a way because of the comms on Alkenzi, because one of the Imperials notices it, and they bring a whole troop down there, and like they find this stuff happening, and they see Gorn, and the firefight starts, and Gorn is just immediately like no time to process it. I thought he got in the shoulder for a bit. I'm like, okay, maybe he's all right, but no, he's just like gone like immediately.
Oh, it took me a full minute to process that.
I was like, he's not dead, right? And then I'm like, oh, wait, no, he is. Like, right off the bat, like 2 seconds into the
He might not be,
action.
Though. I have a work, because like my theory is that they could follow up on this for the 7th or possibly the 8th episode, depending on how it goes. But like, they could cut back to like Aldhani and show that he is, in fact, that he was still alive and taken by the Empire, and we could see the more kind of like brutalist methods of the ISB, because like, presumably torturing him for information, because he says, I deserve worse. He might get worse, sadly, but like,
nah, he's dead.
From my emotional standpoint, maybe I would prefer
I would honestly, I would prefer no torture. No, I would prefer no torture.
Especially because they probably just end up killing him anyways.
Yeah.
Which in that
Like,
case, I'm
pull
like,
a Cad Bane.
no.
Exactly. We won't want to see that for sure. There's also like, I love the attention to detail as well with a lot of these scenes, because like there's a lot of cool little touches, like when they enter the vault and Taramin like basically barks out like some military orders, or commandant on like in the room, basically to like get them all to stand to attention. He uses their own procedure against them, like uses his own experience as a stormtrooper. That comes into play, and it's a nice little note. And then when the fighting starts, and when Taramin actually like runs to help Vel, Skeen fires off one shot, but then you notice like Skeen then pulls away because he's out for himself, really, and he's afraid of dying, and his selfishness, his unwillingness to like commit fully. That's when Taramin gets shot. Yeah, it's like I only noticed that on my rewatch, and I was like, "Damn it, Skeen!"
Fucking Skeen! Oh man, I'm still mad about that. And Taramin's got me too, because I think it was Nemec's reaction afterwards, like, "Oh, where's Taramin?" And then
and it just cuts to him on the floor. It's so, because it's like it's so unceremonious. Like these guys, like it's very much like what happens with Bodhi in Rogue One with the grenade. It's unceremonious.
Yeah, just like rewatching that. Like, I forgot how like his just comes out of nowhere. He contacts the rebels, contacts Radis, my guy, and then grenade.
Yeah, he's done. He doesn't get a medal. Like neither does Gorn or Taramin. They're just cut down unceremoniously. They make their rebellion, and that's it. Like that's all they get. And it's brutal, but it's very kind of like, it's sadly very true to like a lot of like wartime situations.
Yeah, no. I just reliving those deaths in Rogue One again was not fun. And I guess it's been a while since I've seen it, because I like in my mind remembered Bodhi being like the first like death, but he was like the third or the fourth, and then it was just like you said, just out of nowhere. Like I think it was
they killed K2SU first on purpose.
K2 was the first, which was the worst, and then it was Chirrut, which I thought Chirrut and Baze were later on, because I thought it was like Bodhi, then K2, then Baze and Chirrut, and then obviously Cassian and Jyn at the end, which hurts. But
that's going to hurt 1,000% more the moment I decide to watch Rogue One after watching the whole of this series.
I don't want to think about that, because I will probably do the same thing again after Andor season 2 and be like, ooh, oh no. But yeah, Taramin's death, it really hurt, because like, as I mentioned last week, he like had the least amount of development between all of them. So I was like, okay, I see him being one of the ones to go, just because Vel kind of has like the main character syndrome, so they might not kill her, and Nemec's been like hyped up as like the really pure one, but of course like they used his to tug at our heartstrings, of course. But like Taramin, it's like he hadn't had much, but then this one we find out that he was a former stormtrooper. We got like a lot more focus on him in this one, and him like leading the operation and everything. And then he's just gunned down, and it hurt really, really bad. But they are able to escape. They're able to finally pilot that ship, get out of there, and then the TIE fighter chase happens. And again, we need to talk about the visual like beauty that is the Eye of Aldhani. And I'm not talking about that eye at this moment. I'm talking about like the actual one in the episode, because it's like, you want to talk about like yeah, it could be. It could still be yours. Like if yours like shoots off those fireworks, like that's pretty sweet, bro.
Conor is the secret Eye of Aldhani.
We've determined this.
I loved it too. It was very it was very cinematic, but it's also like a great metaphor for like a lot of for the themes of the show, as well as like the rebellion in general, because it's like it starts out with like one piece of light just moving through the sky, and then there's just more and more, and then until it's just like building to this like cavalcade of light, of like these dangerous pieces of light that are just like plunging through the darkness, illuminating the night sky. It's just really good visual storytelling.
Oh, definitely. I forgot who it was. I don't remember what the tweet was. It's like if Disney doesn't add like a fireworks show to Galaxy's Edge that's like the Eye of Aldhani, it's like they're missing out on money there. And I'm like, yeah, definitely. And just seeing the tie chase and like the pilot like through the eye, it was just such a unique like visual experience for like a ship battle that we've ever had in Star Wars. But it looked so damn good, and it was theatrical. Like that's what it felt like. It felt like stuff that you'd see on the big screen. It was
and
insane.
The score as well. The score has to be like called out. Like I love the way that the score is building again, just like it's climbing, just like the ship does.
Yeah, but I love like how you pointed out earlier, like when the eye started, like we see not only the civilians but the Imperials just like take a moment and just like have to take a moment to stop and just look at it because it truly is like breathtaking. Like they hyped this thing up as like something to behold the past couple episodes, and they were not lying one bit.
Yeah,
it was.
Didn't disappoint.
Really was 100%. But we get to like the ship battle, and like we said, we think Nemec is getting out of there alive. It's like, okay, Vel, Cassie, and Nemec, they all survived. I'm gonna pretend that Sint is still there with her, and then these cruel bastards, the crate just comes, gets Nemec right there, and he's crushed. I'm like, you didn't have to do that, Tony Gilroy. Like, you really didn't. You could have just gone. We would have been fine. Everyone survives, but no, you just have to have that happen out of nowhere. And the minute it happened, I was like, oh no.
Yeah. I had the same thought. I was like, I so thought he was fine, and then that happened, and I was like, oh damn it. That's
he goes, I can't feel my legs, and I'm like,
see, I thought he would just be paralyzed though. I thought that's what was going to happen. That he was going to lose the use of his legs, and that was going to be kind of like the sort of price for having participated in this act of rebellion. But like,
I thought it could have been that, but I was still very worried the whole time. Like the minute he got crushed, I was like, oh no. Like, oh no.
It's all the more like moving that like his final words that you hear is him just like fighting through the pain and just giving Cassian the directions. And I like the way that like we don't hear Cassian say anything about what's happened to Nemec, because he's obviously, his eyes are on getting them out of there, and he's like going to pilot the ship through like the chaos of the eye. But like, I really like the bit later on when like without having saying anything, when he hears about like how they're considering like leaving Nemec for dead and taking him to the doctor, he just says with a look in his eye, says like, how do we get to the doctor? And he's just got a look in his eye where he's like, he doesn't want Nemec to die, and like you actually see like that caring side of Cassian for the first time, I think, because like he's been so out for himself and so guarded that to see him kind of drop that, it's very notable. It's just really cool to see Diego Luna do that, like character work.
It makes the Skeen reveal so much worse because he was pushing for it, because he kind of is trying to push Cassian against Vel, like, oh, she's gonna just let him die, and Cassian's like, no, absolutely not. Like, we're not doing that.
He's been doing that since the start of the episode as well. Like not just this episode, but the last two episodes as well, which is why it's a great reveal, because he's doing it the whole time. Like he's constantly trying to project. Like that's why he takes the sky kyber from Cassian in episode 5, because he's trying to pretend that he has this loyalty to the Empire. And it's a really well written scene as well, because like when that happened, I was like, is he messing with him? Is he trying to trip Cassian up or something, expose him? And then he just said, I don't have a brother, and I was like, wow.
I wonder if that's true. Like,
I think it is.
Yeah, I just love that everyone's like, what about your brother? What about his farm? It's like, I don't have a brother. I was like, I think shit.
It has to be, because I feel like I don't think he would lie about it. Like, not in that moment, because he's like, the theme that we have in the episode is like showing the loss, like what losing your family, what it does to people. We see what it does to Cinta, and we see what it does to Cassian, how it provokes these different reactions from them, but like still these very kind of like they're haunted by that. And that's not with Skeen. Skeen is never shown to be haunted by that. But you know that he's hiding. So you always get the sense based on like how the actor's playing it that he's hiding something. Based on these episodes, he does feel like the wild card in a way, and then you see him do this, and you're like, oh, it all makes sense now. Fuck you, Skeen.
I can't fuck you. Fucking Skeen is the reason this happened in Nemec. Like I don't. It's not, but I'm just gonna say it's the reason to make myself feel better. But yeah, no, it killed me. Real quick, I want to cut back to, because we see Cinta kind of walking back towards the people and blending back in with the soldiers. Do we think Cinta killed the hostages?
I'm not sure. I go back and forth on it. She's breathing rather heavily, and the subtitles note that she's breathing heavily. And it could just be because she's worried she's going to be left there. But like, I don't know. She did like have to get out of there, and they'd seen her face. So
yeah. And like, what is she gonna do now? Is she gonna just continue to blend into the Empire, like kind of take over what Gorn was doing, or is she going to kind of be in hiding?
I imagine she just ditched the outfit and like stowed away with the Aldhanis. Maybe that's like, I mean, unless she pops up again during the season, and I imagine she will. Because like I imagine that's going to serve as like some of Vel's motivation to like reunite with her, because they clearly
they're sharing a blanket
to each other. Yeah, that was a sweet moment in episode 5. But like, yeah, I mean I'm leaning a little bit more towards she did, because I think she's sadly practical enough to consider that like she's enough of a realist to consider, if I let them go, then they'll identify me and I'll be like, the Imperials will know my face. I'll be in the database. So I could see her doing that. I don't think Vel might, because I think Vel had enough trepidation before the mission. Because I almost forgot about that, because you were saying about Vel, how Vel has that moment of hesitation, and it's a great payoff to like the bit where Luthen says to her, "Oh, you know, you need to be prepared to lead. You need to be prepared to make the hard calls," and she's scared because that's the moment where she has to become a leader. It's no longer practice. It's like she's actually going to have to make decisions on the fly, and that'll decide whether or not these people live or die potentially. So it's just really
yeah. And how on the nose would it be that like the healer and like the medic of the group is the one that has to take the innocent lives to complete the mission?
Yeah, it is rather. I hadn't thought of it like that.
Hurts. It just hit me like right then and there. I'm like, oh wait, hold on. Cinta's the healer, and like, did she have to do this? And then, I don't want to think about it.
Interested to see, because I imagine they're either going to go to, they're either going to confirm this or forget about it in the next episode. I'm really interested to see if they go back to Aldhani at all. Like have the ISB go there and investigate.
I mean, I don't know if they will. But the fact that like they keep cutting back to like Ferrex. Got my planets mixed up, and like they're not like leaving that alone. Like they didn't do it in this episode. This was all the heist in this one. But like last week we cut back to Ferrex I almost said Scarif again, but we cut back to Scarif Ferrex, the one with Bix, that one. So I wouldn't be shocked if we cut back to Aldhani. The only reason why I'm like, maybe not, is because Cinta would be the only one there that like we know of.
Yeah.
Like, whereas on Ferrex, we still have Brasso, we have Bix, we have Tim's corpse is probably lying there in the street still.
They just left him there. They were just like, fuck you, you ratted someone out. Yeah, we don't need you here. You'll serve as a monument to like what happens when you rat someone out to the Empire. Or Preox Morlana security. Exactly.
But now it's time that we bring back one of my favorite things on our Clone Wars recaps that I have to talk about here. George Lucas is not involved in Andor as far as we know. However, we have another installment of what I call a George Lucas character show up in Andor, because the Doctor's name is literally Quad Paw. He's got 4 arms. His name is Quad Paw.
Of course,
George.
of course it is. Of course it is.
Star Wars is not subtle in its names. General Loathsome, and now Dr. Quad Paw.
You're stalling.
Pod. Like, we see him
I love his design.
It's a great design.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me
stuff.
of like face wise, kind of reminds me of Maz.
Yeah,
with the goggles. Too. Yeah,
but like with Maz with 4 arms and with a medical degree, allegedly. Allegedly,
does he have like? That's the thing I wondered. Did they accomplish that through CG, or did they have like another actor like putting their hands like? Because it looked to me like the latter. I think it was the latter, which
if it was a practical effect, that would be really cool. But I'm not sure. Like maybe when we get like the making of Andor eventually, whenever that is,
I'm really looking forward to that.
We'll see how that
making of special.
But people were like, "Oh yeah." So Nemec showed up in the trailers getting like operated on by this doctor, so he obviously makes it out alive.
They were playing us the whole time.
And then we get like the big reveal as Vel is there with Nemec, and Skeen is just a total bastard.
And Skeen is dead.
He's dead.
Did anyone else like gasp when like Cassian, rather than talking to him, just like shot him dead? Like
no, I went like this and I started.
I was like,
insane. I was like, yeah, go! That's my guy right there.
That's probably how you were with the Bills game. So
100%, yeah.
Because this is the thing, like, and that's why that act is so important. Because again, it's like it's just as that move, just as like killing those officers sets him on his journey with like regards to like meeting Luthen and being drafted into the nascent rebellion. This, I think, is going to be the beginning of like where he starts to get on board ideologically, because he does seem to like take a cut and skedaddle, and I imagine he might be AWOL for like an episode and then come back, and that's probably going to be what episode 7 is, which I'll get into like my theories for episode 7 in a bit. But like right there and then, like Cassian has claimed to not care, to only be out for himself, but we know that that's a lie, because like the first thing we see him do in the show, he is searching for his sister. He's searching for his sister, who has been lost to him for years. And now here's this guy he's been talking with, who is acting all high and mighty and
for the
lecturing
cause.
Acting for the cause, like claiming to be there for his brother. And then it turns out he lied about that. He made it up. He doesn't have a brother. He's basically just a grifter.
Himself.
He's what Cassian actually like tries to pretend he is when we all know he's so much more. And Cassian is so rightfully disgusted by
he's like
this.
No, and like I think you're right there. It's like this is probably the moment where he like realizes like he needs to be a part of the cause, because he hears Skeen be like, "Oh, let's split this and dip," and
it's
he's
kind
like,
of a cool
"Absolutely not."
Yeah, it's like a handshot first thing, isn't it? Because like there's no way. Like if Cassian had to do it, because Skeen is so slippery. Like literally, we're introduced to him like putting a knife to someone's throat like super quick. So we know that like if he'd resisted, Skeen would have potentially killed him and just gone. So like it's a harsh decision. It's a very kind of like it's a very brutal moment, but it's a sadly necessary moment, and it just shows the kind of hard decisions that Cassian has to make, including murdering a man in cold blood because he's a bastard.
Now, I just want to say that again, this is why I hate you, Tony Gilroy, because when I was doing my like predictions of who I thought was going to live and who I thought was going to die, I was like, I thought Skeen was going to die, but I thought it was going to be like that moment of
like a sacrifice.
Yeah, like he sacrifices himself to help Cassian and like kind of show that like that's what ends up completing the mission. And because they've had like this conflict between each other, he would sacrifice himself for the rebellion to make sure that they get out of there alive. And no, he's like, no, I'm a rebel, but I'm in it for myself. I don't care.
It's the dark mirror. It's the dark mirror of what Vel says. Everyone has their own rebellion, because we're seeing that. We're seeing like the beginnings of like everyone's, or like just we're just seeing kind of what everyone's rebellions mean to them. Because like for the Aldhanis, like them, going there and doing their ceremony. That's their small form of rebellion. They are rebelling against the Empire's attempts to like wear them down and take away like their culture for the sake of profit. And like with Skeen, you've got someone who's out for themselves, who's rebelling for their own sake, who's like
yeah.
Well, not even like I wouldn't even like call him a rebel. Really, he's like Rebel Zero. He's like
you said, he's a grifter. He's
like, he is a grifter.
He's like the mercenary that Nemec was talking about with Cassian at the beginning.
Yeah.
Now, what if like it wasn't that Cassian like was disgusted? What if it was like when Skeen was like, "There's a moon like 10 parsecs from here." It was like, "That's too long, bro," and he just kills him right then and there because he's like, "That travel, I can't do it. I'll get car sick." Yeah, no.
That's a "Don't hug me, I'm scared" reference, by the way.
I cannot stand Skeen, and I'm just all the people defending him, all the people like before this
were
like, yeah, no, he's
defending
good.
him?
Before,
Seriously,
not like after, like last.
No, because
week.
like no one could defend him. Like,
yeah, it's like,
this.
oh no, he's gonna be good. He's gonna like reveal, and I was like hoping that would be the case, and no. Because we see him kind of have like this brotherly relationship with Nemec, and we even see that with the scene with Vel when he was trying to turn Cassian against Vel by saying like, "How dare she like leave him here to die? Like that's my brother," and he's like, "I don't care, I don't care. I see you as just another way to get money in my pocket. I'm gonna manipulate everyone." And I mean, he was playing the long haul because he was probably there with the Aldhani rebels like for a long time, and he was just sitting there waiting for his moment. And he finally got it, and then he was met with a blaster by Mr. Clem and Vel.
Because it turned out Cassian cares a lot more about the rebels, and like he actually has come to care for Nemec to a degree, because like that's probably informs part of the decision, because like here's Cassian probably feeling guilt that he didn't treat this kid with more respect, really, when Cassian when Nemec had been so welcoming to him essentially, and it even gives him his manifesto. Like I think that's also going to be like an addition to radicalizing Cassian into the rebellion. Like we're definitely going to see him reading it in the next episode for sure, because there's no way they're not going to do that.
That got me.
I have an outlandish theory for episode 7, but like, yeah, we'll get to that when we like discuss like the closing stuff.
Yeah, no, I just that scene, like, I don't think Vel believed Cassian at all. Like that, Skeen turned on him. Like,
yeah, he's just confirming her suspicions. Like when he shows up with the blaster, that shocked me as well. That Cassian like went there, but then after like a moment, I was like, oh well, it actually makes sense because he's not fully on board with the rebellion ideologically. I mean, if we're going to talk like Star Wars rhyming, it's kind of like Finn, because he comes along for the one mission and then tries to skip out because like he's still motivated like by personal stuff rather than ideological reasons.
Mm-hmm. And again, at this point, I believe, maybe I'm remembering the episode wrong, but I believe by the time Skeen is killed, we still like there's some hope that Nemec might be alive, because I don't believe they pull the body bag over him until after Skeen dies, or am I remembering it wrong? Because you watched it today.
I didn't quite get to the ending, but like I'm pretty certain that it cuts to him dying afterwards. Yeah, but like this, like, I was Skeen, like, there was no way Skeen didn't know for sure he was gonna die. Like that's the thing. Like that's what's so cool about it.
Skeen knew, but we were like, oh, he might live, and then they see that, I'm like, you bastard.
Yeah, like they played us like a fiddle
for like
perfectly.
10 minutes. Like, oh, he's gonna die. No, he's not. He's fine. No, actually, he's dead. Sorry.
I'm alive.
But I love how Cassian.
I'm watching TV.
It's like, here, give Luthen this back. Gives her the Kyber necklace, and then he's like, "Oh, I'll take my payment. You can have the rest." And then Vel gives him the manifesto, and I just love how that was Nemec. Well, one, the last words we hear Nemec say are some of the last words K2 says to Cassian in Rogue One.
Stop.
Fuck.
Stop.
But then I just love how Nemec's dying words to Vel were, "Give my manifesto not to you, not to Skeen, but
not
to
just Skeen, yeah.
Cassian, who he just met, 3 days ago?" I just think that's so, like, that just shows that Nemec really, truly believed in Cassian as a person. And as someone that can do good in the Rebels.
Exactly, and he's also written that other aspect about employing mercenaries, like we talked about earlier. Like, so I wouldn't be surprised if that's just like a letter to Cassian, basically telling him, you could be worth so much more to the rebellion. You can really accomplish something meaningful. I could totally see that happening.
Read that, man, I'm gonna lose it. It's oh no.
So here's the thing. He's gonna have to go somewhere to read it, and the thing is, my first thought was, oh, he's gonna go back to Ferrix because now he doesn't have to.
I don't think you can go back there yet because the Empire is there right now.
Yeah, but I don't think he can. So like, okay, here's my like bonkers theory, which is probably not going to be true, but I'm going to shoot the shot anyway in case it pans out. So I think he's going to want to disappear because like he's fulfilled his obligation to Luthen now. He's done him the mission. He's got paid. He can now disappear. He's like got what he wanted from the first episode. And now he can like go and disappear for a while and find his sister. So he goes to Tatooine. That's where he goes to blend in. And he meets a stranger and he has this conversation with this stranger who he doesn't know, and he discusses like this manifesto, and like they have a conversation, and Cassian like feels inspired by the conversation, and then heads back to Ferrix to contact Luthen again. The stranger is Obi-Wan, because there's those
God, there's no Easter eggs in this show. There's no Easter eggs in this show. It can't be Obi-Wan.
I swear to God, it sounds outlandish, but like Tatooine is often characterized as a place people go to like to disappear, and I could see it working in a story if Cassian like meets this legendary figure who he doesn't know, and they have a conversation, and he's quietly inspired by this person. It'd just be a really cool conversation between those two characters. That's probably me just like being a bit of a fanboy, but like I just think it'd be a really cool. It could be a really cool conversation. It would be a really cool moment.
Be a good scene. I would definitely cry during it.
Oh, for sure. I would love it. It would be. It would probably be my favorite scene.
If it doesn't happen in SW canon, you could always write it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, what I think would be a great reveal.
That's an interesting idea.
Is if like we see Cassian in this hypothetical scene, we see him talking to Obi-Wan, but it's always from like. We don't see it's Kenobi until like the very last shot of it.
Yeah,
and then
exactly.
Like it's like cameras to his back. He doesn't say anything. Cassian's just talking to him, and then at the very end we see like the hood come down, and it's old Ben.
We're all already losing our shit because we'll hear the voice and we'll be like, no, they haven't. Like, yeah, and then meanwhile you'll have people like going on Star Wars, like, well, they went to Tatooine and Obi-Wan showed up. No, why are they going back to the well?
No, they're not allowed to do that because those same people have been like, why does this not have familiar Star Wars elements to it? So then when we get those familiar Star Wars elements, or like we don't have these, who are these characters? I don't care about Cassian, Andor. Ugh. And then when we get those characters, they're going to be like, oh, typical fan service again. But can't get out of their own right. All these Easter eggs. I'll be like, shut up.
But also, there's no Easter eggs.
There's no Easter eggs in this show.
No Easter eggs in Star Wars.
Why do you think there was no stormtroopers in this episode? Is because they have a strict no Easter egg policy in the series.
Yeah. Stormtroopers are an Easter egg. No stormtroopers in Andor. No Easter eggs at all.
Real quick, I do want to point out, because you brought up the Finn parallel, I just want to point out something that Emily from Kessel Run Relay said on Twitter. Because she talked about how we had the 2 Imperial defectors die in this episode. And she said that's the importance of Finn's character and why it's important that he continues his story, is that we keep getting to see his story come true of a Imperial defector that ends up becoming like a rebel hero, and the importance of it. And also the fact that both of those Imperial characters were persons of color, and the fact that they were both killed.
Exactly.
It's the importance of why Finn's story needs to continue. And I want to shout out to Em and shout out to Kessel Run. I love you guys. But it's very important And I just wanted to bring that tweet up because you brought up Finn. And I was like, okay, I got to talk about this. But yeah, I don't know if your outlandish Obi-Wan scene is going to happen. But I would lose my mind if it did. You said Tatooine.
It's
I was
solely
like,
based off of
I was
rumors.
like, oh no, not Tatooine again. But then you said Kenobi, and I was like, okay, now I'm intrigued.
It's solely because of the rumors, because there were rumors like last year that Obi-Wan had a role in Andor. I was like, how's that gonna work? And then like after watching Obi-Wan, I was like, well, they kind of set him up as potentially.
I didn't think it would be season 1, but I think season 2 is when we'll see like Bail and potentially Obi-Wan. But like kind of do what they did with Mando season 1 and have Andor season 1 be mainly new characters, and then season 2 is when you bring in some characters. I mean, we have Mon Mothma, but that's when you might see like your more recognizable names, like your Slime Wars, obviously.
But again,
like,
no Easter eggs.
No Easter eggs. But again, we want to talk about the ending here because we mainly focused on the heist the whole time. We didn't cut to anything. We didn't get our sad boy Cyril Karn in the cereal once in this episode.
He was probably crying his eyes out.
Probably, yeah. Just
was
looking
like playing with his
bedroom,
little clone trooper toys.
Looking in his bedroom at that hologram of Cassian, just like sulking. But we get one scene of the ISB, presumably them finding out about the rebel stuff on Aldhani. And then we get one scene of Mon Mothma and one scene of Luthen. And we talked about the Mon Mothma scene already and how it kind of subverts our expectations for what the Imperial Senate would be at this time. We can talk about the ISB stuff real quick, and like, because I'm starting to think that next arc is when we're going to see Dedra and Cyril kind of their plots start to intertwine, and eventually them starting to team up. We've been theorizing that since the beginning.
It could be that that's what episode 7 is, because here's the thing, because this is part of the basis for the theory I had that like because Tony
you
Gilroy,
said it's going to be more standalone.
Yes, because Tony Gilroy said that the episodes 8 to 10 are the next arc, and then there's the 2-part finale. And he said episode 7 is very interesting. That's how he described episode 7, and that made me think, huh. So like I thought either there's going to be like a big appearance, or it's going to do something different. And so like one thing they could do is just have episode 7 solely be about like Dedra and Cyril, since they haven't had much of a presence in the last episode. So it could be that. It could be something outlandish, like Cassian has a convo with Obi-Wan or something. But either way, I'm excited to see where they go, because like aside from Saul showing up, I don't really know where else they're going to go with this, and that's what's really cool.
Yeah, no, I mean, I can see next episode being the Saw one, but
yes,
again, I'm not entirely sure, because I just assumed that it would be 4 3-episode arcs. So that's actually news to me, that 7 is kind of going to be on its own type of thing. I'm assuming Vel is not done. I'm assuming we'll see her again on another mission.
She's in the trailer. She's going to go to Coruscant. There's a still. Someone got a still from the trailer. I wish I could name the person, but they got a still from the trailer of Vel, basically like looking like a Coruscant, like one of the Coruscanti, like very kind of like sophisticated, looking at Mon Mothma. So she's going to come to Coruscant and
that's
be part of that whole story.
She was one of the few that got a figure announced. So I was like, okay, so she can't die. She can't. She's on the poster. She gets a vintage collection. So I mean,
this is the thing about Mon's story that fascinates me, because like Mon Mothma's can't outwardly join the rebellion here. Like see her join the rebellion in Rebels. So like,
and in her Senate speech, she brings up more of the stuff that eventually happens in Rebels that leads to her joining. So I like that we're getting that little hints, that foreshadowing. But again, no Easter eggs.
Easter eggs.
Yeah, so she's just talking about something. But then Luthen's scene, guys. I loved how this was framed. First of all, shout out Clea. Just again. Just shout out, just wonderful. Love her. She's awesome. But I love how the one guy's like, you got anything from Aldhani here? And he's like, huh? And he's like, yeah, a big rebel attack. Did you not see? And we see him go in the back and just him just start laughing and oh, what a great
Luthen
ending.
Rail is the gift that keeps on giving when it comes to like these like just really cathartic, like interesting. I think it's probably one of my favorite. I think it's my favorite role I've seen Stellan Skarsgård in, just because of how like he gets to kind of tap into like a different kind of energy really with this character. It's just I'm really excited to see where his character goes. I'm really worried he's going to die. And I'm worried it's going to have something to do with Saw, because I'm in two minds about it.
Theorizing that since the beginning.
I don't want him to die, but I also do kind of want Saw to do something that is just kind of like that just makes us as an audience just recoil a little bit, to just kind of put us a little bit in the rebellion shoes, because like every other appearance we've had from Saw, like he's sort of been a little edgy, but he's never done anything outwardly like like bad that could be construed.
Go read it.
I keep forgetting about Rebel Rising, but like
there's something that happens in that book that's
deception.
T-bad. That's all I'll say.
Bullgullet. Oh God, sorry.
Do you think Cassian and Saw are going to meet? Because we've had enough characters like interact separately. From
Maybe
Cassian.
not this season. Maybe season 2.
Because there is that shot because when Cassian and Saw meet in Rogue One, Saw immediately gets his stick up, like he recognizes him, and they never speak. So it could just be that they recognize each other, but they don't say anything because the fucking planet's collapsing. There's no horizon.
They can easily retcon that and just say that.
Yeah, exactly.
Like there's nothing in Rogue One that contradicts that. It's like, oh, but he doesn't know where Saw is, and it's like, well, obviously rebel bases move frequently.
And this show is very good with the retconning as well. So like, I'd welcome any and all retcons by this show, because like for them, retconning is let's take the original thing, build on it, and include the original thing so that it doesn't feel like we're just throwing that away. So yeah.
Yes, definitely. But I just love that Luthen scene. I love the disheveled wig. Like I love how at this point, like his real hair is like more put together than like the proper Coruscant look that he's got. It's just like all over the place now because he's just a anxietal mess over this mission. And like that's the way he learns that it was a success. But at this point, he doesn't know that Taram Gorn.
He doesn't know the cost of it.
Nemec, exactly.
Yeah, so it's got kind of a bittersweet edge to it, because you can. It's a more positive note to end on, because he's like, you get to see the relief from him, but it's also tinged with sadness because, like you said, he doesn't know. I mean, I imagine his first thought when he talked to Bella was like, "Are you kidding me, fucking Skeen?"
Yeah, I mean, we're probably going to see, since you said Vel's on Coruscant, we're probably going to see her visit Luthen.
Yeah, to tell him about everything, and she's probably gonna say, "Oh, Cassian." Your mercenary betrayed us
about everything.
Yeah.
And then Cinta's going to be there, and she'll be like, oh, I just went right back and got her. And we'll be like, oh, thank God. Thank God. I don't want her alone on that planet.
More Cinta in Star Wars, please. Let's not have a go the way of Val.
Give me the Cinta one-off novel, please, or the comic series. Tales of the Jedi, Cinta. Give me that. But
she was a secret Jedi all along.
She was a secret. I mean, I'm still on the Lyra Erso as a Jedi like theory that was around at the time of Rogue One, but that's another conversation for another day. So yeah, this arc was lovely. I loved it. I just love the art that Andor has developed in its storytelling of building tension throughout 2 episodes and then just letting it explode in the most beautiful way in the 3rd episode. And I'm very
literally is like a powder keg. Like I love how it's set up like a powder keg, and like it's a slow trail. It literally is just like setting off like an explosive a trail that just explodes out, like you said. Brilliant tension.
It's definitely like interesting, and it was interesting to watch this one on a weekly release, whereas the first arc we all got in one day. So getting to see it over the course of weeks, I liked it, and I cannot wait for where the story goes next. But I just love how for the majority of this episode, we got to focus on just the heist. We'll get back to the other characters next week, and I'm excited. But yeah, like you said, next week is supposed to be more standalone. I'm interested in seeing that. I hope we get some more shots of Ferrex, which means more Bix. Please, I've gone 3 episodes without my beloved. I need her back. But yeah, so I think we pretty much talked about all we can for this episode. We could probably talk about more. I could spend 10 minutes talking about just the eye itself. And again, not that one, the one in the episode. But I could spend 10 minutes talking about that one too.
The one that works.
For now.
It works every 3 years. But yeah. I think we've said all we can here, unless anyone else has something they want to point out about the episode or the arc in general. All right.
Yeah, I think I've said all I need to say.
Okay, awesome. So, thank you for joining us. Again, it was a bit late. You can check us back here later in the week for our recap of episode 7. We're going to have a special guest on that episode, which if you are a part of the SWE Discord server and the SWE group, you'll be very happy with who we are bringing on, someone that we're all very familiar with. But thank you for joining us here. As for you guys, starting with Conor, where can everyone find you?
Twitter at DepaBanana. You can find me there talking Star Wars as well as sports, because
yeah, he's in a very Philly sports mood right now.
Philadelphia sports are like really good right now, and it's kind of suspicious. But like,
someone's pulling the strings.
I'm cool with it. You know, my Phillies are good, Eagles are good, but like, I'm a baseball guy first and foremost. So, yeah, Phillies are in the NLCS. We're doing pretty good. You can find me at the Nerd Academy podcast, co-hosting and talking about Star Wars there on that Star Wars show, Knights of the Nerd Republic. Where else? I always forget where people can find me, even though I've said it for like the past like 30 or so episodes that we've had. How many episodes have we had? Like total?
I think of the main series, we've had like 10 or 11, and then if you count all the recaps and everything, it's probably like 20 or 30 at this point.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's even before you like get you on stuff in there.
Twitter, Knights.
SWE.
Yeah, I think just SWE. SW editor, IG.com/fiction. I don't have any published stories yet, but there are a numerous amount. I cannot remember the exact number. We have 2 comics out, a lot of other short stories, I think the technical term is novelettes. Novelettes are stories in between 10,000 words and 50,000 words, and that's where most of our stories range within that word range. One story I can talk about, because I have a few in the works, but one I can't talk about, is called The Hidden Kyber. It's set shortly after the events of Fallen Order, and it stars Seer Junda and Cal Kestis.
Beautiful.
Probably coming out in December, I think.
All right. Don, you weren't here last week, so where can the good people find you?
Right, you can find me on Twitter at Donovan Mead, where I tweet Star Wars, tweet about some Marvel, and recently also politics as well. Especially recently, there's a lot going down here right now. But you can also find me on Instagram, Donovan McComish, and you also can find me on sweditor.ig.com, where like Conor, I write articles and write stories for SWEF. My first story was Scars of War, and I've got some other projects in the pipeline that I'm excited for you all to see eventually.
Perfect. As for me, you can find me Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitch. Same username at Starlight Andrew. You can follow the podcast on YouTube For the Republic Podcast. We're putting all of our podcasts out on video now. And then on Twitter at For the Repub Pod, and Instagram and TikTok at For the Republic Pod. We're going to start putting out more clips and stuff from the episodes to get that engagement going. But as for the main Clone Wars show, it'll be back soon-ish. We just got to figure out like when we're going to record that because I have a busy recording week. And Galactic Senate Sit-Downs, our interview series, I've got 2 episodes coming up in the pipeline. Both are going to be out later this month. Probably going to be recording both at some point this week. I'm excited to talk about more of that in the future. So, see you back here for Andor Episode 7. But until then, may the Force be with you, always.